One morning, after a violent storm, the villagers living near the ocean wake up to an unbelievable sight: a massive, human-like giant lying lifeless on the shore. It looks exactly like a human, except it's as big as a building. No one knows where it came from. Did the sea wash it up? Did it fall from the sky? At first, only a few fishermen see it, and they're terrified. The giant isn't moving, but its sheer size is enough to scare everyone away. Soon, word spreads, and crowds gather to stare at the strange creature. The local police are called, but they don't believe the reports. They think it must be a hoax. But as more and more people confirm the giant's existence, even the authorities have to accept the truth. The government sends a team of scientists, led by a man named Stephen, to investigate. Stephen had only read about such giants in old legends. He never imagined he'd see one in real life. Once people realize the giant is dead, their fear disappears. Instead of respecting it, they start treating it like an attraction. Children climb on its arms and legs, laughing and playing. Adults take pictures, sitting on its chest as if it's a tourist spot. Stephen watches in disbelief. No one cares where the giant came from or how it died. They only see it as a source of entertainment. People have carved their names into its skin and created graffiti art. Days pass, and the giant's body begins to rot. The smell becomes unbearable, and people slowly lose interest. The government plans to cut up the body and dump it back into the ocean. Stephen watches everything closely. He notices how birds start pecking at the giant's flesh, and its once shiny skin turns pale and decayed. Eventually, the giant's body is chopped into pieces. Birds and stray dogs start feeding on its flesh. The place that was once full of tourists, now, people no longer find the giant fun. They avoid it, disgusted by the decay. Even in death, the giant is used for profit. Some of its body parts are taken by locals as souvenirs. Others are sold for profit. A butcher even takes one of its bones and hangs it outside his shop as a trophy. A circus owner preserves the giant's private parts and charges people to see them. A farmer uses the giant's skull as a fence near his house. Stephen realizes something dark. Humans are no different from animals. Animals ate the giant's flesh to survive, and humans took its remains for money and amusement. Months later, only a few bones remain. The giant, who once was a terrifying mystery, is now completely forgotten. Stephen thinks, no matter how powerful someone is, death makes everyone equal. People fear what they don't understand, but then they exploit it and forget it. In the end, humans and beasts have the same nature. They will take whatever they can, without respect. It also makes us question, is this how we treat the dead, or something that cannot defend itself? Are humans really civilized, or do we just hide our greed better than animals? In the opening scene of the movie, we are introduced to 𝗍𝗵𝗿𝗲. Gulliver was always happy and full of energy. He worked at a magazine company that collected and delivered articles from all over the world. He had been doing the same small job at this company for 10 years, and because of his unserious attitude, he never got promoted in all that time. But Gulliver doesn't care about this at all. One day, a new employee named Dan joins the company. While explaining Dan's job responsibilities, Gulliver sees a woman named Darcy. Darcy is a columnist in the same company, and Gulliver likes her. However, he doesn't have the courage to talk to her. Within a few days, Dan gets promoted and becomes Gulliver's boss. Dan tells Gulliver, "You need to stop your unserious attitude and become more serious about life. Otherwise, you'll spend your whole life stuck in this small job." Hearing this makes Gulliver sad. When Gulliver is about to leave work, he notices Darcy is still working late. He goes to her office, but can't think of anything to say. He just mumbles, "I only came to pick up this form." Darcy notices something and asks, "Do you like writing travel articles?" "I didn't know that about you." Gulliver starts exaggerating and says, "I've traveled to many countries and written many articles." Hearing this makes Darcy very happy, and she says, Show me one of your sample articles tomorrow. Gulliver agrees and goes home. At home, Gulliver tries to write an article but can't think of anything because he's never actually traveled anywhere. So he copies an article from another magazine on the internet and takes it to Darcy the next day. Darcy is very impressed with the article because it's actually very good, and she praises Gulliver. Darcy was supposed to go to the Bermuda Triangle for a project, but after reading Gulliver's article, she decides to send him instead. And Gulliver? How can he refuse? Gulliver takes a boat and heads toward the Bermuda Triangle. On the way, he gets distracted reading a magazine about robots. When he looks up, his boat is caught in a terrible storm at sea. He tries to call 911, but there's no signal. The boat gets pulled into a whirlpool, and Gulliver loses consciousness. When Gulliver wakes up, he finds himself tied down on a beach surrounded by very small people. This place is called Lilliput. The commander, General Edward, tells him, "We have captured you because you were helping our enemies." Gulliver thinks he must be dreaming and tries to escape. But the tiny Lilliput soldiers knock him down again and take him to their king. King Theodore puts Gulliver in chains and imprisons him. In prison, Gulliver meets another prisoner named Horatio. We learn that the king's daughter, Princess Mary, was engaged to General Edward, but Horatio was in love with the princess. Because of this, General Edward had Horatio imprisoned. In prison, Horatio and Gulliver become friends. The next day, General Edward forces Gulliver to work in the fields while still wearing chains. Meanwhile, enemies attack Lilliput. The enemy soldiers set fire to the king's palace and try to capture Princess Mary. Horatio unlocks Gulliver's chains and begs him to help Lilliput. First, Gulliver saves Princess Mary's life. Then, he puts out the palace fire in a very unusual way, by urinating on it. King Theodore declares Gulliver the hero of Lilliput because he saved them from the sudden enemy attack. Seeing this makes General Edward extremely jealous of Gulliver. Gulliver convinces King Theodore to pardon Horatio's punishment. To celebrate their victory, the king throws a big party and invites both Gulliver and Horatio. At the party, the people of Lilliput ask Gulliver where he came from. Gulliver starts making up stories, claiming to be from a land called America, where he's the most important person, the President of America. Everyone believes his exaggerated tales. King Theodore sends a team to repair Gulliver's boat and gives him a nice house to live in. General Edward wants Gulliver to leave as soon as possible so he can remain Lilliput's only hero. Gulliver entertains the people of Lilliput by telling them movie stories as if they were his own life adventures. He also helps Horatio impress Princess Mary by making him act strangely, just like Gulliver used to act around Darcy. Surprisingly, the princess likes Horatio's awkward behavior. General Edward tells Gulliver they've found his boat. Gulliver is overjoyed because now he can return to Darcy. With the boat, he also gets his phone back and sees many angry messages from Darcy. She has discovered that the travel articles Gulliver showed her were actually copied from a magazine. Feeling sad, Gulliver sits alone, thinking when Princess Mary approaches. He tells her he wants to stay in Lilliput a little longer. The princess says he can stay as long as he wants because he's their hero. When King Theodore learns of Gulliver's desire to stay, he makes Gulliver a general of his army. Meanwhile, General Edward gets jealous and secretly damages Lilliput's defense system. When the enemies see this weakness, they attack again. The enemies challenge Lilliput to surrender. Gulliver goes to talk to the enemies peacefully, but they attack him instead. Their weapons have little effect on giant Gulliver's body, and he easily drags all their ships onto the beach. After winning this battle, Gulliver becomes the greatest hero in Lilliput's history. King Theodore puts up billboards all over Lilliput celebrating Gulliver and arranges many entertainment events in his honor. Meanwhile, General Edward goes to see Princess Mary. She tells him, "We don't love each other, so I can't marry you," and breaks off their engagement. This makes General Edward furious. In his anger, General Edward joins forces with the enemies. He steals the robot-making magazine from Gulliver's boat and uses it to build a giant robot. He returns to Lilliput with this robot to defeat Gulliver. When challenged, Gulliver loses the fight. At this moment, Gulliver admits the truth to everyone, that he's not really a hero, but just an ordinary person with a small job. He confesses that he lied about everything. General Edward banishes Gulliver to a dangerous island from where no one has ever returned alive. Then Edward takes control of Lilliput and imprisons the king along with his entire family. Meanwhile, Darcy comes to the Bermuda Triangle to complete her project, and accidentally, she also arrives in Lilliput. But General Edward captures her on the beach. Seeing this, Horatio follows Gulliver to the same dangerous island. This island is the complete opposite of Lilliput, inhabited by giants so large that Gulliver looks tiny in comparison. A young girl on the island dresses Gulliver in doll clothes and plays with him, keeping him in her dollhouse. Horatio finds Gulliver and tells him about Darcy's arrival. Determined to rescue Darcy, Gulliver uses a parachute to return to Lilliput. In Lilliput, the people keep calling Darcy Gulliver's princess, which makes her realize Gulliver has feelings for her. Gulliver frees King Theodore from prison and declares, "Lilliput is in danger because of me, and now I'll be the one to save it." He fights General Edward's robot again. Edward tries to electrocute Gulliver, but Horatio sneaks into the robot and damages its wiring, allowing Gulliver to defeat it and free Lilliput. Everyone cheers for Gulliver and Horatio, throwing flowers at them. King Theodore agrees to let Horatio marry Princess Mary, and Darcy realizes she likes Gulliver too. When the kings start talking about war, Gulliver helps them make peace instead. Finally, Gulliver and Darcy return home in their repaired boat. Back at the magazine company, Gulliver writes a famous article about his Lilliput adventures. He gets promoted and becomes a columnist. The movie ends with Gulliver's happy new life. I hope you enjoyed this video. Please share it with your friends and subscribe to our channel for more videos like this. See you in the next video.